Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic edition of Let's Talk. It's not Dialogue Box. I swear to God, I'm so used to making those. It's the show. It's one of my 3 shows in which the host clearly doesn't matter. I'm back here again with MasaeAnela.
You don't matter. Don't say that. You are A-okay.
I'm all right. So we've got MasaeAnela here again. Say hello.
Hello.
I guess. It's been a really long time since I've recorded one of these.
It has. Schedules are a thing.
Schedules are the worst things.
Yeah, they really are.
Not great. Not fantastic.
No.
It's been quite a long... Even if it hasn't been for my entire series, it's definitely been a while since last we talked. If we don't count the several dialogue boxes we've done. Don't worry about that. Just pretend it didn't
Those
happen.
don't count. They're non-canon.
Absolutely. No, not in this
Non-canon.
cinematic universe. So last time we talked about if I can just scroll over there. It's one time my trackpad doesn't work for me. We talked a lot about recording. How do you record? How to HD copy protection? Do you have those problems? You probably didn't.
I did. For Katamari, that has changed since then.
The rules are different. You now have a Switch that can play Katamari.
Not the specific Katamari.
Oh, was it We Love Katamari? Or no, not
No,
We.
it was Katamari Forever.
Oh.
'Cause that's PS3, and PS3 has that whole garbage thing.
That's right, it does. How'd you do that again? Maybe I'll just watch the last episode.
God, I tore down that setup. It's fine.
It's all gone anyway.
Yeah, it got trashed.
Rubble and dust.
Half of the time it didn't work anyway. You don't want to do it.
Don't play PS3. It's fine. That's what we learned. So I think this time we're going to start in the guest commentary section, which is a weird place to leave off on. I don't know what was on my mind. But I guess the first question here is, have you had guests on during a recording, and who have you had on as guests?
It's funny that we're bringing this up now because Katamari comes to mind. It actually does. I really want to have guests more than I do. I don't typically have guests. It's just everyone's busy and I have a hard time reaching out and saying, "Hey, do this with me." I have a lot easier time when it's like Adriana on Twitch or something, cuz I do a lot more streams now than I did before, and that's a lot easier to spur of the moment be like, "Hey, play this game with me," and then it's fine.
Gah.
But Katamari Forever was supposed to have a bunch of guests. It was supposed to have Steven, it was supposed to have John, and it was supposed to have Tim. And then all of the footage corrupted.
I was about to say, and nobody came.
That too.
Oh. Well, damn.
No, and it kind of feels a bit cursed because the same thing happened with Beautiful Katamari. Because there's a multiplayer in Beautiful Katamari, and Steven was supposed to be on that. Or Steven Amell. I think I got one episode of that uploaded. I was like, come back for more multiplayer. And then it never happened because it all corrupted. Just like Katamari Forever. And I'm real mad about it.
Yeah, I guess it's corrupted forever.
Yep.
It's not my greatest. But for these guests, were they in person or did you do online guests?
Mostly in person. I don't do a lot of online guests. It's just harder to keep everything straight for me. At least when it's in person, if TRG's in town, I'm like, hey, hey, I have mics. How about we do this thing?
Look at you. You're conveniently located.
Heck yes. I got wheels and I can make this happen if you make the time. But
just actual tires that you put them in, you just roll them down to your house.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. Exactly. Just the wheels. Parents wouldn't let me have the car.
But yeah, for Twitch, it's mostly online because Adriana's across the country.
So far away.
Yeah, sad.
5-hour plane trip. 6-hour
Sad.
plane trip. Very sad.
Very, very sad.
As sad as it is far away.
Yep, exactly.
So did the recording setup have to change that way? And if so, how were you able to kind of maintain that high quality audio?
The recording setup doesn't really change because there's like audio interfaces with XLR cables and garbage. So like honestly, more often than not, I just drive to where they're recording and I'm like, "Hey, let me use your setup." So that's pretty much what happened. What?
I said just plop your stuff down.
Yeah, pretty much. I pretty much just like drove on over, was like, "Hey, play Katamari with me." And then it happened, except it didn't happen because it all screwed up. But it's a very convenient setup in that I don't have to set it up.
Well, dang. So that's it for this section. I could have just done it in the last section. We had 20 minutes.
To be fair, I didn't have nearly as much to complain about like trying to have guests and then it never panning out.
Well, and I think when I wrote those questions originally, this took place 5 years ago, everyone. When I wrote those questions originally, there was a lot of different, I think the equipment, not a lot of people understood the equipment. Not a lot of people could afford the equipment.
Different.
Most people, I think if I were to do this, if I had done this interview like back when I originally wrote the questions, it probably would have been a much different answer. Like, oh yeah, we use a Yeti Snowball. But like most people at this point kind of understand XLRs and audio interfaces.
Audio Technica 2020. Hey.
That's right. Used to use a USB version of that. Which I don't really notice that much of a sound difference, so whoopee.
Yeah, the XLR really like, it is a little bit more crisp when you listen to it side by side, but the main draw for me is just that I can adjust the gain on the fly.
Yeah. Well, there's that, especially with the interface. I mean, you could with the Yetis, but the problem with the Yetis was, for me...
It didn't sound great.
It didn't, and if you listen to... Basically, for our viewers, if you listen to the first maybe 3 or 4 episodes of this interview, that's me using the Yeti. I'm now currently using an Audio Technica 2020. And for most people that have been watching up to this point, probably have noticed a small difference. I've been using this microphone since 2 years ago, maybe a little more than that. Heck yeah. I love this thing. And I'll probably buy a newer, better one anyway. But that's not the point. It's, like I said before, the technology and the way to understand it has changed a lot.
Agreed.
So
it's a lot more common knowledge now. And even if it's not common knowledge, like Google has a lot more info specifically for like gamers and streamers and tutorials. And it's a lot more commonplace.
Yeah. I mean, it was the whole reason why I made the show to begin with, and now I stare at its irrelevancy. But moving forward,
it's still relevant. It's still relevant. People are gonna take techniques away from it, and like.
Right. I mean, I just like to make jokes. That's what I do.
I'm here to refute your jokes.
How dare you?
That's what I do.
Joke refuter.
Mm-hmm.
Superpower.
That's me.
All right, so let's move on to editing. Everything's already recorded. We're almost ready to put it on YouTube, but we forgot to edit it. So let's start there.
All right.
So what editing software do you use for your audio commentary?
Well, I don't really use anything to edit the audio itself. Audition I use to record it, and then it just goes straight into Adobe Premiere. But I do use compressors within Adobe Premiere just because it's convenient and I don't need much. With commentary, you really, really don't need a whole lot of tweaking unless you want it like super pristine. But considering I have like game audio going over it, it doesn't really matter that much.
It does help a lot to have something to kind of drown out any potential background noise. And I guess another really nice thing about the Audio Technicas is like, if I'm over here, you can't hear me nearly as well as if I'm over here. And half the time you can't hear what's behind me if there's some noise.
I feel like more than that, since I also have the Audio Technica, the audio levels of the background are a lot less pronounced than other microphones. The thing that I have a problem with is when I peak the mic by accident, and it's like just that grating when I get really loud. So before, I used to manually go to every peak and like bump it down by a decibel or two. Just every time I see myself get super loud in the waveform, I'm like, oh, that needs to go down. But now it's like all automatic.
And one of the things I've noticed is that even with compressing the audio, it doesn't, once you've peaked it, once you've hit it at the red, like the quality is going to be diminished no matter what you do with it. It's just at that point you're trying to even out the audio.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that it's pretty easy for me to accidentally peak with the 2020s because I like put my face right up to the to this, the sock of the microphone.
Yeah. Typically I record super, super soft. So I very, very rarely actually peak the mic, but that just gives me a bit more control over like how much I boost this part or like make this part a little bit softer.
Right. I think it's just for me, like when I start to laugh, it definitely starts to, oh crap, I can't fix that. But like, what are you going to do? Stop laughing, I guess. In terms of your video now, I guess you mentioned that you already use Premiere, so we're good on that. Yeah. And can you kind of maybe describe some of the presets or maybe video settings that you use for a given episode? Like,
generally for the video, it depends on the game. It largely depends on the game. If it's something older and like more blocky, hello N64, there's a lot more that goes into it. Sometimes I use unsharp mask. Sometimes I use little itty bitty saturation, brightness, contrast. Just all of these little effects in like small little increments. But my usual go-to that blankets basically everything would be unsharp mask. Like it just kind of makes things a little bit more crisp, a little bit more popped out with the colors, and it's not so in your face that you immediately know like, hey, there's a filter on that.
You cheater.
I know, but still, technically it looks just less vibrant overall because it's going through a bunch of stuff and a capture card. So, not quite cheating, just enhancing.
That's what Game Genie called it. So, how do you deal with 4:3 footage? Do you stretch the video out to be like that 16:9 full screen? Do you like do a background?
I used to do the stretch, and personally, I still like that.
Really?
I still actually don't mind the stretch. So, but now I just kind of, I leave the aspect ratio alone for the most part, unless it's like barely noticeable. Like if you're filling out like 10 pixels on either side because the aspect ratio just doesn't match up for whatever weird game it is, then I'll just be like, well, boop, there it goes. No one ever notices.
No one's going to notice that.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you talking about 3DS footage in that case? Because I know that one's really weird.
Yes, 3DS footage is kind of annoying because if you do 1:1, then you get these really, really thin little black bars on either side of the video, and I'm like, nah, screw that. No one's going to notice these 10 pixels getting stretched out.
My immersion.
And no one did.
It looked fine. I think in most cases, you're really not going to notice any difference.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather have that than like bars on either side.
Oh God, what did we do? So one of the first things I ever recorded with a 3DS, I did it for Zelda Universe for the Hyrule Warriors Legends content. And this was right when it came out, and it had the Linkle storyline. We're like, they'll never remake this game to include the Linkle storyline on an HD platform ever.
Oh no.
So I went and beat the game in like 2 days so I could play it. But what we did was, I didn't actually do this. I think it was Trevino that did this. Alex Trevino, who works for the Zelda Universe YouTube, everybody. Mm-hmm. And he took a gradient and sort of faded to black on the top and bottom. And I guess it looked fine. It looked fine at the time.
Interesting.
But yeah, I know that certain people did have different techniques. I know Chugga Conroy, for example, he will usually have some kind of background on the tops and bottoms. But unfortunately, like the 3DS is just a wonky ratio.
Yeah.
So it's never going to fit perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wanting to say, actually, that in Majora's Mask, I did do sidebars. I can't remember. I can't remember my own series layouts, but I'm wanting to say for that series, I didn't mess with the ratio.
I'm going to find out right now.
I just found out for you. I did not mess with the ratio. Which is weird because I feel like I would have, but oh well.
This doesn't sound like me.
This doesn't look like me. What happened?
Who did this? This isn't
Who
my
edited
Let's Play.
this?
Fire them. So I guess normally you would use like a static background. Do you create that background on your own? Did you like find something to just kind of use? Like I think in Majora's Mask, it's just I guess it looks like a cloud filter. Like
the sidebars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do everything myself. It was just a basic little grunge brush that I had in Photoshop, and I was like, yeah, this looks good.
That's actually the sound it makes when you use it, by the way. Just
every
so
time.
Everyone knows that or may not use Photoshop.
Every time I open up Photoshop and place the pen onto the tablet, it goes every time. The never-ending whoopee cushion.
That's right. And it's a standard feature, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, little known fact. I do have a couple more questions, but I think we kind of went over them. When it comes to using a standard definition video, way back, especially in the like old Elgato days, most of the time they would stretch out the video, even if it was 4:3. I don't think this is much of a problem anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had that problem anyway.
I knew it was a setting I had to turn off.
Ah.
That's right. But we don't have to talk about it. Do you have, I guess I noticed that you said that you do kind of like the 16:9 full screen. Is there any like benefit to having one or the other, or is it just personal preference?
And honestly, it's just personal preference. Like, I guess these days it's more accurate to just say that I don't care. I'll watch whatever. I really don't care if it's stretched or if it's not.
Okay. So we'll kind of go into the 3DS a little bit more. Wow, this wording is so old. I noticed that you played World 9 of Donkey Kong Country Returns on your 3DS recently. And, of course, also extremely recently, as if it happened yesterday, Ocarina of Time 3D Master Quest. What led you to play those particular titles on the 3DS? Because, I mean, in terms of DKC Returns, I get that you played World 9 because it was there.
Yeah, basically for Donkey Kong, it was just like, it's extra content for Donkey Kong, so I have to do it. That's pretty much all there was to that one, but Master Quest is just that Ocarina of Time is one of my favorite games. And I was like, how can I possibly redo this terrible, terrible series that I did on day one that I have many regrets about? And it's like, there's a remake and there's an alternate version remake. Perfect. And then there you go.
There you go.
I did it.
Because I mean, I guess there are options for Master Quest. You could also play it on the GameCube. But yeah, I guess it makes it more topical since it was on the 3DS.
Yeah. It's a bit more updated, and like at the time there wasn't very many videos about Ocarina of Time 3D specifically, because like people did have like 3DS capture cards, but they weren't as prevalent as they are now.
And probably will return to that form eventually.
Yeah.
Please don't
rip.
take our advice from the last 2 episodes about going to Katsukity. They're dead now.
Yeah, there are none that
Absolutely.
I am currently aware of.
That's right. They're a dying breed. Take care of yours, kids. How did you achieve merging the 2 screens together, especially on Majora's Mask 3D and Ocarina of Time 3D?
Ooh. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. God. All right. So a lot of it is masks. I just cut it out, cut the hearts out and blah, blah, blah. And then placing them in the individual spots that I wanted them to be in. But
oh my God.
The part that was really actually tricky, especially in Majora's Mask, because in Majora's Mask I also put in the map in there. Like the little map in the bottom corner of the screen. That's not normally there. It's on the bottom screen. It was awful to get up there. So all of that where I have to work with like moving parts or like cut out specific shapes, that was color keying over and over and over. I think the map had something like 15 different color keys on it to cut out only the brown and none of the green.
Holy crap.
Because it had to be really precise. I couldn't like make the tolerance super high, or else it was going to start taking chunks out of the different icons on the map, like the red triangle and the yellow triangle, and the chests especially got cut out a bunch because it's almost brown. So I had to basically like color key each individual shade of brown on the map and make sure that it worked for every single map in the game. It was actually terrible.
Oh, why?
It was terrible.
You do great work.
Thank you.
Like if you had told me that's what I had to do, it's like, well, I'm just never playing that game. I'm never doing that.
I mean, I'm really happy about it because here's the thing about Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. Specifically Majora's Mask, because Majora's Mask was like 10 times worse.
Yeah.
People don't notice. It's one of those things where it breaks my heart that nobody notices.
Oh man, did the game always look this way?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like, I got more people asking me how I got the HUD on the top screen than I got like, hey, you did great on the editing. And like,
how did you do that in the game? It's an option, right?
No, for real. People have actually asked me that. They're like, where did you find the option to put the HUD on the top screen? And on one hand, it breaks my heart because no one ever knows how much work actually went into every single freaking episode. But at the same time, that's like the highest compliment because I did good. No one could tell that I did anything to it.
What was it? If you do something just right, nobody will ever know you did anything at all.
Yep.
Just right.
Yep. Majora's Mask was my just right.
And so it's just layers upon layers upon layers. Then how did you do that for the hearts then? Did you do a keying out, or did you individually mask out a heart?
See, I would have wanted to individually mask out the hearts.
That's like 20 layers.
The hearts pulsate, so I couldn't do that.
Okay.
So that was also color keying everything out.
Okay.
And then when you do that, actually, it gets rid of the inside of the magic bar. So you know how when you use the magic bar, you have like the little grayed out portion?
Uh-huh.
That's not there. So I had to like stick it back in. I'm like, all right, let's take this little black box, put it in there, and like make the opacity just right.
I just figured you made it another line.
No.
Wow. I'm also noticing that it's in, at least Majora's Mask is in 60 frames. Is that just due to how you recorded it?
No.
Or maybe I'm wrong?
No, it's 30.
It just looks so smooth. Maybe it's just me.
No, I do believe that it's 30 because I think the way the 3DS worked is that it is capable of 60, but it splits it for the actual like 3D part of the 3DS.
Right. Yeah, if I remember correctly, like most of the hardware is super beefed up, but it gets hindered because you have to use it for 2 screens or something like that. Okay, well, that's crazy. Kirby's Mass Attack also uses a merged screen theme, which just came out yesterday, just right with Master Quest.
Yep.
Very recent. Please don't at me. So you have a lot of like occasional footage of the bottom screen popping up when you need to. Is this something that you want to keep trying to do for future series? Knowing that you've kind of done it already in future series. Are you okay?
Okay, the answer to that is yes. I would absolutely keep doing it, and I would do it again if I had a specific idea, which I do have ideas for other games of which I can actually incorporate that. And the main reason why I do it is because I find it a lot easier to keep track in video form if everything's just on the screen. Whereas when you have 2 separate screens, your eyes are constantly shifting from one screen to the other. And me personally, I don't like watching videos like that. And
right.
Whenever I make a series or work on effects like that, I always kind of gear it to what would I want to watch? What would I enjoy viewing? And then I'll take those ideas and try to make it work. And that's how I started doing the whole merging screen things, because I looked at Ocarina of Time 3D and I'm like, I bet I could make this look like the actual game.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
To the point where even I think for a little bit, I had thought that the hearts and magic meter were actually on screen. Like I knew everything else wasn't, but
yeah, they're not.
Yes, I was like, something's wrong. And are there any other kinds of methods or templates like that you would want to try, even outside of like the 3DS? Has any other game maybe made you think to do something like that?
If there's anything that I could think of, it would probably be some form of Wii U game, because a lot of Wii U games have the gamepad and a lot of the menus are also on that. And I would probably, not saying that I would do this because I already did Twilight Princess. I'm not doing it again for the foreseeable future, but I would probably try to incorporate the menu on the bottom screen onto the top screen so I don't have to switch back and forth or leave out any information.
Right.
Stuff like that I would absolutely look into.
And at least in that case, I think still half of the work is done for you in terms of what shows up on the actual TV screen versus the gamepad. So
yeah, pretty much. I actually have never even played Twilight Princess HD, so I don't know what the differences are. I just know that some of the menu is on the gamepad.
The main difference is that Link turns into a wolf. I don't think he's done that in other Zelda games. So big difference.
You're right.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we'll leave it down there. When we'll banana hammock. We're gonna go stop here, move on to the next episode, which will probably air in about a month from now, from when you're listening to this, dear viewer. But we'll be back. We'll talk about some Let's Player specific editing skills that I probably wish I could have added even more to it because you've done so much more since then. And then we'll go into exporting, uploading videos, as well as like some of the other stuff that you've done on your channel that aren't specifically Let's Plays. So please look forward to it, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.